Good evening, Tiger fans, and welcome to episode 2 of On the Prowl. I'm Ashley, and I'm here with Evan and Amy.
We're going to start out with a fun fact today about Tiger baseball. You're probably familiar with the football record with South Carolina, but what you don't know is that Clemson baseball leads USC 172 to 135.
As for Clemson baseball, Clemson will hold an inter-squad scrimmage at Doug Kingsmore Stadium this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The Tigers were ranked number 10 in the Baseball American preseason ranking, released on Monday. It marked the highest preseason ranking for Clemson since the Tigers were number 4 in the 2011 Collegiate Baseball preseason poll. TCU is the nation's preseason number 1 team, followed by Florida State and Florida. Clemson is one of 7 ACC teams in the top 25. Other ACC teams joining Clemson in the top 25 are Louisville at number 8, NC State at number 14, Virginia at number 16, North Carolina at number 17, and Georgia Tech at number 21. In all, the ACC's 7 top 25 teams are more than any conference. The defending ACC champions, the Tigers, had a 44-20 overall record in 2016 in head coaches Monty Lee's first season at Clemson. The Tigers opened the 2017 season against Wright State on February 17th at home.
So we got about 2.5 weeks to the first baseball game, and I feel like it'd be a crime to talk about baseball if we didn't bring up
Seth Beer, of course.
Everyone's favorite. I know you wanted to say that he was the National Player of the Year last year.
Yes, he is. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I can't even count on one hand how many home runs that kid had. And it's incredible because he's actually younger than me and Evan, who are both sophomores, and he's about the same age as Amy. He actually graduated an entire semester early and could have gone straight to the draft, but came to Clemson instead, which is very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Third Tiger baseball player ever to win the Dick Howser Trophy, which is the nation's overall player, joining Chris Benson in 1996 and Khalil Green in 2002. If you've ever been to a game at Doug Kingsmore Stadium, you probably noticed that on the outfield fence there's pictures of Chris Benson and Khalil Green from both of those seasons in which they won the Dick Howser Trophy. So don't be surprised if in the not so distant future you see Seth Beer's face plastered somewhere on the outfield fence there at the Doug. But moving on from baseball, I know last week I told you I was sick. I had an ear infection and I was sick of bad basketball being played. I got a prescription today from Red Fern, and the men's basketball team won at Pitt this weekend. Saturday, the Tigers marched right into the Peterson Event Center and handed the Panthers a 67-60 loss. Jerron Blossom game led all scorers with 25. Shelton Mitchell added on another 10. Pitt took a 5-point lead into the half and only managed to score about 24 in the second half to Clemson's 36, making the final score 67-60 Tigers. Coach Brownell attributed the win to their time off and defensive effort. Tigers are back at home tomorrow night to face Georgia Tech at 7 p.m. in the new Littlejohn. And just a quick shout out to Coach Brownell. He tied Oliver Purnell for second in Clemson men's basketball history with his 54th ACC win, and he passed Oliver Purnell in career ACC road wins. He has 17 in his 7th season. Oliver Purnell, of course, was here for 7 seasons. So good job for Coach Brownell for winning some ACC basketball
It's
games.
a tough thing to win in the ACC on the road, so
especially this year.
Definitely.
Especially for
ACC
Clemson.
I know. I think our motivation last week for tearing the basketball team apart definitely helped them.
I hope so.
Maybe we can get some credit for that.
Maybe. The women's basketball team had their first ACC win against Georgia Tech on Sunday, 62-61. Freshman Jaya Alexander was named ACC Rookie of the Week for January 16 after averaging 12 points per game in her last 2 games. Just last week, Jaya earned her first career start against NC State. Alexander is the second Clemson player to be named ACC Rookie of the Week this season, as her teammate Kobe Thornton earned the accolade in November. The rookie guard is 5th on the Clemson team in scoring, averaging about 7 points per game. She has played in all 20 contests this season and is also averaging about 4 rebounds per game.
And another note from this game, this was the Lady Tigers' first ACC win in 2 years. Their last win in the ACC was a home game on January 2nd, 2015. They beat Virginia Tech 63-54. I think it's been 41 games since our Lady Tigers won an ACC game. So shout out to Coach Smith and the Lady Basketball Tigers for watching our show last week and apparently using that as motivation for beating Georgia Tech this week.
Yeah, I actually have a class with one of the basketball players. I was telling you, she is the only player on the team that has started every single game that she has been at Clemson, which I find very, very impressive. So I know she was super excited about it in class on Wednesday. She could not stop talking about their win.
Yep.
But the women's basketball team will be traveling to Durham, North Carolina on Thursday to face Duke at 7 p.m. Evan, can you tell us some more exciting news about our men's tennis team?
Well, I know I bragged on the tennis team last week, so yes, I can tell you something about the tennis team. They swept Wofford 7-0 last Friday at home, and they beat Michigan State and Presbyterian later that weekend on Sunday, making the team 7-0 this season. They're going to hit the court this Sunday against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So if you're willing to drive to Tuscaloosa and watch us beat Alabama in another sport, you can go support the men's tennis team. Unfortunately, the women's tennis team fell to Virginia Tech for their first loss of the season this past weekend in Nashville. Their overall record's now 2-2, so I guess they got 2 losses on the season. They'll take on number 6 Georgia this Saturday at 2:30 at home. After causing a racket on the court this week, let's hear how our track team did this past weekend.
Sorry for the pun, you guys.
Yeah, but
So the Tigers concluded another successful weekend at the Clemson Indoor Track and Field Complex on Saturday afternoon with the final day of the Bob Pollock Invitational. 6 facility records were set over the course of the 2-day meet, raising the count to a total of 12 facility records broken this season on the newly renovated indoor track, which is super exciting. After running her best 60-meter dash of the season, Sabria Hadley cruised to a first-place finish in the 200-meter dash with a time of 23:51. This time is good enough for the 6th fastest 200-meter performance in the nation this season. The Tigers will head to Texas A&M for a 2-day competition beginning this Friday.
In the next week of Clemson athletics, you can look forward to the men's basketball team at home tomorrow at 7, the women's basketball team Thursday at Duke at 7, the track and field meet this weekend.
There will also be a diving competition this Saturday at James Madison University, so you may not be able to make it there, but it's a very interesting sport to watch. The baseball team also will be hosting a fan fest this Saturday morning before the inter-squad scrimmage. And last but not least, National Signing Day will be held tomorrow at the new football facility. So definitely be on the lookout for Clemson's 2021 recruiting class.
And we got some pretty high-profile recruits putting pen to paper tomorrow, most notably T. Higgins. Just a quick story about T. If you're unfamiliar with him, he's a 5-star wide receiver recruit out of Tennessee. He's won Mr. Football for the state of Tennessee the past 2 years. I have a buddy, Joe, in recruiting, was telling me a story that last summer at this camp for all the top wide receiver and defensive back prospects in the country, they all converge and have this camp together and kind of go up against each other. And of course, Dabo and Coach Jeff Scott were there, and Jeff Scott walked over to Dabo and he said, "Hey Dabo," he said, "you remember how easy this camp was for Sammy Watkins? He said, you remember how it was child's play for him out here with these DBs?" And Dabo was like, "Yeah, sure, of course." He said, "Yeah, it's even easier for T." So if you're unfamiliar with this kid, he's going to be a lot of fun to watch in the next 2 years. Maybe better than Sammy Watkins. I'm not putting that pressure on him just yet, but it definitely got some talent.
Well, also, we have a 4-star quarterback coming through, Chase Bryce. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of him, but I actually had the privilege of meeting him a couple weekends ago, and he was up here for his official. So he's a very interesting kid. I know he's super excited to come to Clemson. I actually followed him on Twitter, and he is telling every single person to come to Clemson, which is awesome. I just think that's really incredible, showing how Clemson family starts before they even sign to come here.
Well, and still going off of the whole recruiting thing, I know this past weekend these guys won't be signing anything tomorrow, but Junior Day, we had that at the new football operations complex, which opened this past weekend. So all of the top junior recruits in the country that we're targeting, came and checked out the new facility. Most notably, Trevor Lawrence. You might have heard of him. He's the #1 quarterback and the #1 overall recruit in the 2018 class. Already a verbal here, so we're really looking forward to him coming. And he's been talking a big game, saying how much he loves Clemson and trying to recruit some other guys to come play with him. So we're really excited about him coming next year. So we won't be signing anything tomorrow, but he'll definitely be a kid to look out for this time next year.
He also tweeted out, everybody, if you're an athlete that's looking at Clemson, go to Clemson.
Exactly.
So we're reaching everybody.
The new $55 million football complex
Yes.
definitely working its magic so
No
far.
kidding.
A ton of the new recruits are saying if you have seen this facility or want to see the facility, come to Clemson and you will commit. That is what every single one of them is saying. So
I've watched plenty of my friends' Snapchat stories.
Oh, yes.
Pretty jealous.
Wow.
me included.
Yeah, she went down the slide the other day.
I got
Yeah,
to go
yeah.
down the slide. It's super fast, kind of dangerous, but they have mats at the end. So
I don't want to hear it. I'm moving on. I've come to terms with it. Moving on now to our final segment, as we do every week, we call it the Final Prowl. Today's topic in our Final Prowl is your favorite sports broadcaster of all time. Amy?
I have a male and a female favorite broadcaster because I watch them very closely, obviously. So my favorite male is probably Jay Billis, not because he's from Duke, but that doesn't hurt. He's extremely knowledgeable and he's very professional. He's not biased, so that's good. And I just really like how he goes about doing things. Also, Maria Taylor, she is young, she's up and coming, she does lots of important games. And she's also very professional, and I just really respect her. So,
Well, I'll go next. I only have one, and I guarantee you it's nobody either of y'all have ever heard of. The reason I'm a sports comm major and the reason I probably ended up on this show here is Mr. Larry Nolan. He calls football and basketball games for the AM radio station in my hometown of Albemarle, North Carolina, WSPC 1010 AM if you're ever in the area. You can turn him on. He actually got me started as a sports broadcaster by letting me take his job. He was the public address announcer for my high school's basketball team.
very nice.
And he was looking to not do that anymore and call games on the radio. So I stepped in and took the mic from him. And then for my senior project that I had to do to graduate, I did it, of course, on sports broadcasting, and he was my mentor all throughout that. So I feel like I probably wouldn't be right here, right now, if it wasn't for Larry Nolan. So definitely my favorite sports broadcaster of all time.
So I'm going to be super cliche, and I apologize. I also have two, male and a female. So the female, of course, Sam Ponder.
Yeah, can't
We all
debate.
know my obsession with her runs
Yeah.
through and through. But I actually had the privilege of meeting her when Louisville came for game day. I waited in line for about 2 hours at Home Depot just so I could say hi to her and give like 5 seconds of my life to her. But it was really cool because I am an ESPNU correspondent for Clemson, and I was talking to her about it, and she actually did the same exact thing.
Wow.
So it gives me some hope. I'm super excited. She's very genuine, and you know, it's kind of hard when you meet people like that to tell if they're like really fake or if they're actually that nice.
Live
and
up
she
to your
really is that
expectation.
nice. And everybody I've worked for that has had the privilege of also meeting her has said the same thing. She's extremely nice, well-spoken, knows so much about sports, and made a name for herself, and basically worked her butt off to get there. And I think that's really admirable. And my male would be Tom Rinaldi. I was telling y'all, every single segment I watch that he has talked about or been on, he has the most amazing voice. And I just am in a trance every time I hear him. And I think that's really cool to have like a known voice, because anytime you're not on camera and there's video playing, people are going to know it's you. And we actually got to meet him last year. They came to Clemson, and they came and spoke to a bunch of the comm and sports comm students, and I thought that was really awesome that they took time out of their day to come talk to a bunch of students. I know.
You were a year late.
Too young.
I know, but I just think those two are both, you know, they both work for ESPN, which is my dream, and I think they're definitely the coolest broadcasters out there.
You can always tell it's going to be a good segment on SportsCenter when Tom Rinaldi's narrating. You're either
That
going to
is true.
cry, laugh, or both.
Exactly.
And that's a hell of a day, quote unquote, Jim Valvano. That does it for this week's edition. 2 down, plenty more to go. Thanks for joining us for this week's edition of On the Prowl. And as always,
Go Tigers!